Okay. Hello, Max. Max is here. Oh, okay, yeah. You can. Oh, hi, Max. Max says hi, and then he's gonna lay down. So I do have a couple of questions that people submitted beforehand, in case I can't see the live chat or something happens. I wanted to be prepared. So I didn't write down here who asked them because this is live and it's public, and I didn't know if the people who asked the questions would be okay with me saying their name and, live to the internet. And I just wanted to be respectful. So you might recognize your question, and that's great, but I might not say, I'm not going to say names unless someone in the chat types. So the first, let's see. We'll start off with some easy ones. The first one is, where do you get the sets, the backgrounds? For the set where Octavia and where the main action in the flashback is going on right now, it's actually a real world place. It's actually in Poland. And I don't speak Polish, so I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it's called the Palace Dietla, and it's a neo-Baroque chateau that was made for a guy named something Dietla. And I first decided to use it because it popped up on my Facebook feed. It's the bathtub. It's like that very famous, very Baroque, humongous, you could do laps in it bathtub. And I was like, oh, that's just perfect. I'm going to use that. And so I did. And I stuck Leo in it and got some bubbles and put it all in there. And then I was like, oh shit. I've now this looked cool, but I've backed myself into a Baroque corner with everything. And I had to go reverse Google image search to find out where that bathtub came from and find other interior shots of this palace in Poland. And I had the most luck with searching for things and in Polish. So looking for the dining room, but if I search for Palace Dietla dining room, but in Polish, I'd get more responses. So I went through there, and a lot of it, I'd say 90% of it, is actually from that palace. The dining room, it has the bar area, the bathroom, and so that's where I got that from. And actually, there's a park next to it, and it has a gazebo and a little lake and everything. And I went to Google Maps and I searched from it's called the Park Dietla or whatever, to the palace, and they're exactly from wherever the pin in Google Maps is, are a mile-ish apart, or 1 kilometer. And based on that, I calculated that Octavia threw a 16-pound bowling ball from the park through a window in the palace, and I was like, holy shit. She's kind of strong. A lot of pent-up anger, I guess. So that's where those all come from. Those are real places. You could go there. Other ones, I actually use Wonder AI to generate. So Eos, where Cecilia and Botalak and everybody is in that when Leo and Octavia first meet, that background is computer generated, because I didn't want to take from Star Trek or any other existing property too much. I really try to avoid that. So I used those. And the scene where they're on the transport ship and Leo is taped, as is Herbert, is also computer generated. In fact, all the character portraits, except for the very obviously recognizable stolen people like Borbert, or that's just Robert Pattinson from a behind the scenes thing, looking startled and kind of stoned. And I think I have I know his name's not Jacob. He's probably a very nice boy. But Jacob from Twilight's in there too, and some random hot dude is Reagan. But for the main characters, they are generated or messed around with AI and then thrown through several layers of Photoshop and editing because I didn't want to do things and then have a lawsuit because I don't know, I had Robert Pattinson snort space fungus. But he seems the kind of guy that would be okay with that from everything I've seen. So I don't think I have to worry. But so that's where that all comes from. And the props like Bubbles or Herbert or anything is just stock photos, or sometimes I'll take a photo of a thing I see and then make it transparent and put it on there. So that's where the sets and stuff come from. The other question is, why this art style? Well, I wish there was like a really good answer to this, but there isn't. One, I can't draw. And by the time I could teach myself to draw and draw in a way that expresses the ideas I want to express, I would be dead. That's just how it is. So I figured I could cobble something together to kind of like do a storyboard. And I'd been messing around with animating things like that in Snapchat and other programs for a while. And I think, what was it? Kids Pick Studio, something like that, really influenced my love of doing that kind of like random collage. Like it was a program I had as a kid that you made little videos in. And so I was doing that and people were responding well, nicely. And so I was like, well, it would be a lot easier if I didn't have to do basically stop motion for each picture. And I just did one shot. And so I just downloaded, it's kind of like a knockoff Adobe Photoshop because I'm poor, PixArt, and started doing them in there. And learn as I go. Learn how to do perspective. I remember I was really thrilled the first time I figured out how to make people turn around. They're just stock photos of the backs of people's heads. But I was just thrilled because it opened up so many possibilities. So that's why that art style. I hope that it'll get better and that more interesting and I can do other things as time goes on. But for now, it's what we have. Because the internet is a very visual medium. And I could write out in prose the whole thing. But I don't think a lot of people would be just interested. It's hard to get people interested without a visual element present. So if I have this visual element, then people get hooked and they kind of overlook the weird art style because they're hopefully more interested in either the jokes, the characters, the story, or whatever, instead of ignoring it because it's just words or ignoring it because it's, something I drew that looks unintelligible. So that's why that. Where do I get my ideas? Oh, okay. So some of them come from other media properties I've consumed. I think that's kind of a universal thing if you write. Definitely Revolutionary Girl Utna's in there, very much. The last scene with Magdala and Nana is, I think maybe Brian might have caught it. It's very much the Wakaba Black Rose duelist arc bit there. So there's that. A lot of the overarching in-world building, like how the world came to be, gods and stuff, is actually Gnostic. Specifically from the Pistis Sophia. And there's a lot of characters that either have names from that, who might not, I don't think I've introduced them yet, or characters that are named after proponents of heresy, early Christian heresies. So they come both before and later, where we're at in the story now. So there's that. Originally, most characters were in a D&D RP thing. So some were NPCs or characters that other people made that they were just like, oh yeah, I don't want it anymore. You can. I'm like, ooh, yoink. So that's where that comes from. I want to say Sailor Moon because everything is Sailor Moon for me, but actually no, there's not a lot of Sailor Moon in here. So it's strange because some of the ideas are pre-plotted. There's like certain plot points that have to happen, but getting from the plot point in my brain to it actually happening, there's a lot of changing. Sometimes the characters just go off on their own and are just like, no, we're doing this now. And I'm like, no, you're not supposed to. No, no. And change. And that's really frustrating. Okay. Here are some more, the questions that are a little less general. Can Malti do the healing thing? If so, do they know this? And if not, why not? Yes, technically, everybody in that universe, well, okay, not everybody, but every organic born being can do the healing thing. It involves manipulating Elim, and they can all do it. Some people are really good at it, just naturals. Other people kind of suck and can, like, maybe make a little glow in their hand to, like, find something that's fallen under the couch. And not much more. But if you really wanted to, you could dedicate your whole life to it and work really, really hard and get good. Or you could just be born very naturally talented. And that's the case with Octavia, and her older sister, Inanis, was very, very skilled. Cecilia can. She's not as good. She doesn't use it as often. She's much more practical and much more focused on other things. So she's not terribly interested. So another character that can, to an extent, is Nana as well. We just haven't seen that yet. So they can all do that. Technically, Peitov could do it, but he'd probably mess it up. He'd probably re-break the person's leg in 7 places. Ooh, what else we got? Were Octavia's fathers a murder-suicide, or did they fight each other like in Antigone? These two boys were always fighting each other. I'm excited to actually get to do that section of the story because they're fun and awful. And it was definitely a murder and suicide. That's all I'm gonna say for that, or else we're gonna all have to get our raspberry hats for a really big spoiler. Let's see. No, why is this not scrolling correctly? Can nobles have multiple spouses if they want, and it's just unusual, or is it not allowed? Nobles can have multiple spouses. You can get married and have people marry in, but when it comes to nobles, because they have more property than the common people do, it's strictly whoever you married first, and the first child of that union is then the inheritor, unless something drastically changes, like they die or go to space jail, then it would be different, which is why there is a bit, that's why there's a civil war, because Cecilia is technically Varen's oldest child by his first legal spouse, and therefore she would stand to inherit everything, but he disinherited her after Busar went kerplooey and took the throne for himself and instituted Leo as his heir with his second wife. That is scandalous and not really common generally, because Cecilia didn't really do anything to warrant being disinherited from everything, other than she's very, very associated with Tavi. And there's some anti-off-worlder sentiment and other things going on there, but she didn't do anything that would normally warrant being disinherited. And she's pissed about it. Okay. Who is in charge? How does the hierarchy work? And the difference between meta stuff and the main stuff. Okay. I even get confused on this, I'm sorry. So the main story is, right now, everything that involves Leo, Octavia, Nana, Morga, Magdala, all those people. That's the main story. The best way I can describe how the meta stuff works is, if you've ever watched Mystery Science Theater, the main story is the film when they're in the theater. That's what they're watching. And then the meta stuff is when they leave the theater and they're out in the satellite of love, goofing off, doing little skits. So it's more like that. In the metaverse, technically the person in charge is the little autism creature dog thing, not God, Abraxas, that represents me. And any of the other meta characters that basically have unique powers or are not from the main story have that little like Nintendo speech bubble. That's how you can tell. So in that universe, Abraxas is in charge. And other than that, the characters kind of arrange themselves in their own hodgepodge hierarchy of based on in-universe things. Like characters will listen to Cecilia, they'll listen to Peitov and to Selu, because one, they have an air of authority and they know each other from within canon, and they know, okay, this person is, you know, a good leader, this person has experience in this, so we should listen. That's not always the case. There's definitely probably going to be some no fuck yous. I don't have to listen to you here. And I started with the meta stuff for funsies, and then I did the thing where Leo kind of started crying because he thinks it's his fault that Octavia died, and then we did a flashback, and then it just snowballed, and now I'm terrified because I have to do 2 stories, and I think I'm going to wrap up this one and then move towards more of a Mystery Science Theater type thing with it to make it just easier. Whoa! Woo! Sorry. So in canon, who is in charge depends on what world you're on, what time period you're in. So right now, who's in charge in the flashback story with the Malti? It would be everyone's got to listen to Varen because he's king. But above him is the Great Elder, the Tolman, to some extent. He can't really boss them around much, which is why he doesn't like Nana, because she can just tell him whatever she likes. And he can't do shit. And their government works and it's a mess. It's not a great government, because I had to make it up. It's very much based around concepts stolen from the Holy Roman Empire. So they have prince electors, they have an elder council made up of the prince electors, and the great elder kind of functions as the pope. And so there's tension, and generally things, as seen with like the fact that Cecilia wants what is rightfully hers, it can be dynastic. But they could also hold a vote of no confidence in a king at any time and re-elect. So there's that pressure. And so I guess they'd be more in charge. in that. Outside of that, you would have to look at each individual wherever you are within, and that culture's specific governance hierarchy. I hope that helped. Let's see, I had a few more. Does it have a villain? Yes. It does have a villain. It actually has several. There is one like Big Bad. You haven't met them yet. I don't like to do villains that are just mustache twirling evil for plot reasons. I can't stand that. Like, I don't like Saurons. I understand the utility of a Sauron villain. I understand what Tolkien was doing. But that's not overly interesting to me from a writing standpoint. So my villains have... I always try to remember that for every villain, in their mind, in their version of the story, they're the hero. They're doing the right thing. They're doing something good. They're doing something just. And so I try to keep that in mind, that they're striving for something. And it's not just, I'm Sauron and I want to take over the world because I'm Sauron. It's they have to have reasons, or else I think they become boring and unfun. The villains are very much influenced by Silent Hill. Definitely 1, 3, and 4 played a big role in that. And we just haven't really encountered them yet. We're not going to see them for a bit. They might get obliquely mentioned, but not for a bit. They're busy right now. They're doing stuff. They're plotting. Got some villain stuff they gotta do. Let's see. Oh, someone wanted to ask about my language proficiency in spoken languages and fantasy languages. My language proficiency, I am hyperverbal, which is weird because I don't actually talk out loud a lot. I'm hyperverbal. I learned to speak full sentences before I was 1. I could read before I was 2. So I'm hyperverbal, I'm hyperlexic, and so I can read and speak, and Japanese is my number one. Like, recently I just tested on Duolingo, I tested out of an entire course level. To German, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, German, and Middle Egyptian, and I have to really excavate my brain for it, but Tengwar, which is the script for Tolkien's Elvish, and Quenya a little bit. Like, I'm certain someone saw me like lose my mind at Rings of Power because they were using the wrong form of Elvish. She wouldn't be speaking Sindar and it would be this and that, and I was very unhappy. I'm like, you paid how many $1 billion? Use the right Elvish, dang it. So, I have that. Then, yes, Nebo is spoken and written, and I think last time I opened up the dictionary for that, I have something like almost 2,000 words in it. Selous people's language is similar. It's slightly different. I think I mentioned that because I think someone asked what Tekura meant, and they thought, the person thought it was like just Petov's job title. And yes, I guess officially dumbass is, but no, she's calling him rotten egg. I guess it's kind of like brat, similar to gaki in Japanese, like you little brat or you dumbass brat. So she's calling him that, and I guess it's his unofficial job title as far as she's concerned. And but te, T-E-H, is nebo for death, sickness, rot, disease. And it's specific to them. It's actually specific to seahorses. They can get body rot. It's a really gross, horrible thing. So that's specific to them. So when they came into contact with Sailor's people who don't experience body rot, they just took it as a loan word. So, but then she uses Kyuda, which is her people's word for egg. So it's actually two languages. In Nebo, it is Iunda, so it's different. They still have the same kind of UNDA endings, but the front part's different. So she's using two languages, and then I guess a third English to yell at him and tell him to come here or shut up or do whatever. So that's three. And the Maltese have their own language as well. We've had a few words in it, like Tolman and a few others, and names of people that aren't like obviously English, like Bo isn't, and Tolak is Maltese as well. And there's just not as many yet because I haven't had time to sit down and do as many, so I'm just basically having them speak English more or less because no one would want to read it if I wrote it in. If I sat down and actually wrote it out, the entire dialogue, and invented a whole new script for them. I might do like one example panel someday, but that would be a bit cumbersome. So it's kind of like how in Lord of the Rings, there will be like sprinkles of Elvish or Kuzdul or the Black speech, and not like whole big blocks of it. Because I haven't written that yet, or I haven't thought of a word for it yet. So that's the deal with languages. I definitely I pulled a Tolkien in that I started making a language for space seahorses, and then they got reverse engineered into members of this story here of the Estiad. And sometimes I still pull a Tolkien and make language stuff to procrastinate on the thing I'm supposed to be writing that I'm using to procrastinate on the other things I'm supposed to be doing in my life. So it's like we're 3-4 levels of procrastination. So, are any of your characters inspired by real people in your life or other fictional characters? Leo is often, I'm finding, and I love him. He's wonderful, but he has a lot in common with Max, my dog, at times. Someone said he has big golden retriever energy, and I'm like, yeah, guess what Max is mixed with? He used to be a real bastard. I did not like him. He was awful. He was like an almost even worse miniature Varen, almost Joffrey. But he has changed so much, and now I adore him. He is our himbo prince, and I love him. So, real people. I guess to an extent, Nana would be what I would, that kind of kind person is what I would like to be like. There are some characters that are based on historical figures from our world, or concepts, I guess. But not very many people I know. I initially named Magdala so I could call her Mags because I knew someone with that name who was an awful person, and I thought it would be very cathartic to make her basically suffer for a bit. But then instead I ended up feeling badly for her, and she became her own character. She went from being basically the stereotypical wicked stepmother to a person who is struggling and is sad and just, she's lived her whole life Like, she'll be in the next flashback, the next arc of the story, but she'll be younger. And you'll get a better idea of why she does what she does and what she's been through. And if you're a Revolutionary Girl Utena fan, you might see where it's going. So some people are based on that. And I think that's the last question I have is, does your family support me? Support like what I'm doing or know about it? I don't talk to my birth family at all, so I don't even know if they know I'm alive. So, but I'd probably guess generally they would not support anything I'm doing on principle. They did not support anything I did as a child in this manner, so I don't think they'd support it now. My boss obliquely kind of knows and is like, oh, good job. Yeah, that's really nice for you. I have no idea what you're talking about, but good. I'm proud and I'm happy. Max is really supportive. He's right. You can't see him because he's on the other side. And Cookie is in her bed, it, ignoring me. So I guess that's cat support, right? She's like, ah, it's fine. I don't care. I don't. I have really wonderful friends who are supporting me. All of you watching now or later, or leaving comments, or making fan art, or just reading, just doing anything is really wonderful. I'd say my girlfriend knows that I'm doing this, and she's read, like, I think she read the very first one where the one where Leo broke Abraxas and cried, and I think I don't think the whole, either the art style or the story or whatever, is much to her liking, so she tends to not engage with it much, and that's fine. You know, it's not for everyone. It doesn't have to be. So, but I do get a lot of support and love from my friends and other people, and that's really wonderful and makes it worth it, especially when I'm really doubting myself and thinking it's stupid or no one cares. And when I say I'm going to screenshot this and I'm going to put it in a collage, I do. Every little nice thing, every nice comment, every fan art, everything, I either write it down, I screenshot it, I put it together in a collage and keep it, because I need that, because I don't get a lot of IRL reinforcement or compliments, so I need to fight my brain when my brain's telling me I'm terrible and stupid and no one cares. So that's what is up with that, and that is the end of my previously prepared questions. I don't know if I can even see if there's a chat. Is there? Like, let me just... I have no idea. I have no idea how to see if like there's a million little chat things going on or not. What does that do? Oh, that's a poll. Oh no. Link. So, I have no idea how to do the chat thing. So I guess while I figure that out and download this, I will maybe do another one, and if people could send in questions ahead of time, I'll answer them or figure out how to do the chat. And so this has been about, like, what, 45 minutes? Yeah? Okay, I'll think of anything else. I'm excited to eventually get to write the next part where we get to see a younger Varen, and we actually get to meet Tavi, because Magdala's right. they cast a really, really big shadow over everything. And I guess that must be, it's probably frustrating that I'm the one that knows and there's no way to access the other stuff. So I'm excited for that. I might compose some music to go with things. It depends. I do all of this on my phone. It's an iPhone 11, so it only has so much memory. It only has so much it can do. I would really like to get like an iPad or something a little bit beefier, and I could do more and better quality. But that's gonna probably be far off, so we'll see what my phone can handle before I absolutely fry it to death. I think the best thing has been interacting with everybody and reading my friends' stories and engaging with them. And we have a Discord. I need to put stuff in there and be more active. It's been kind of a hectic, stressful week. So I'm doing that. And this has been lovely. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to end this and then hopefully not delete this so it can be watched by other people later. Bye!